Today I'm going to show you how to correct any blemishes you may have in your resin. This is a tile I did about a week ago. As you can see, I missed a spot here. But also, let's see over there, it's so difficult to film resin. There's a little bubble, an air bubble. There we go, we can see it better like that. That I didn't pop, or it formed after I'd already done the blowtorch, the last blowtorch round. So I'm going to show you how we can fix that. First things first, we need to retape it. I just used regular old painter's tape and just retape the back. Our first step is to sand the whole piece down. So even though we only had missed a couple of one spot and then had that one little air bubble, we have to sand the entire thing. You can use 80 to 120 grit paper. I've got 100. I find I prefer that. Now, don't worry, it's gonna look like you're messing up your work, but you'll see it works out. So we sand the whole thing. Okay, so now that we've got it sanded, we don't have to go all the way down to the spot that we missed. I'm more concerned about the bubble because that will self-fill. Resin is self-leveling, so it'll fill that spot. I'm not worried about that spot as much as I was about the little bubble, or if you have like a cat hair or your own hair in here, at least sand down till that's gone. And so I checked and I felt, and the air bubble is gone. So yes, it looks a wreck right now, all cloudy, but it's okay because what we're gonna do, let's give it another little go here, is take a damp paper towel and wipe off all this red residue. And look at that. Yes, it is still scratched up and whatnot, but we can just wipe off the dust. Keeping in mind that we don't want a whole bunch of dust on here because if we're going to re-resin, you don't want dust. So I've got a couple of these wet paper towels. So you do not want to re-resin while it's wet. You need to leave it, let it dry. Because if you re-resin while it's wet, your resin may not set properly, or it may become cloudy and cure cloudy. I can still feel some grit on here. So what I'm gonna do is let this dry completely and then come back in with the dry paper towel, wipe it off, and then feel it to see if there's any more grit. If there is, I'm gonna take some compressed air, like what you use on the computer, and clean it off that way. So I'll be back in a few minutes. Let's dry first. Okay, so we're back. This is dry. It still feels gritty. I'm gonna take a dry paper towel. Try to get as much of that off as possible. I could use a brush, like a paintbrush, or I could just spray it with the air, the compressed air. And don't forget, we'll still do the process of cleaning it with alcohol, a little bit of alcohol to get rid of any oils before we re-resin. But we're pretty much good to go. All right, so now we're ready to go. Don't forget, you'll need gloves. You'll need your respirator and your resin, which I'm not going to go over how to mix resin. I use KS Resin because it's high resistant, high heat resistant, but just follow the instructions of whatever resin you use. So I'm going to mix this. I'm gonna put on my respirator, my gloves and so forth, mix this, and then I'll be back to finish this guy up. Okay, here we go. Excuse the muffledness. I have my respirator on. Some alcohol. I've raised this up so you can see it. Getting rid of any oils. Okay. I made extra resin, and I have extra coasters prepped and other things that I want resined, and I need to just make sure we cover these properly, and I will do so by using my hand. The problem is when you do a lot of them at one time, you can do things like that, like miss spots and stuff, because you're trying to go quick. Resin starts to cure, depending on the brand, within 30 to 40 minutes, sometimes even quicker. So although you don't have to rush, you do need to work with purpose. So now I'm going to just make sure everything's covered, including the sides. Okay. All right. And then I'm going to use my torch, my blowtorch, to get rid of any bubbles. Be careful not to scorch the resin, so you don't need to get right in there, and don't hold it on one spot for too long. And then usually I wait about 10-15 minutes and then torch again, looking for any hairs or anything that may have fallen in, and take those out. And then cover it. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, share, subscribe if you enjoyed this.